So the Jazz got the win. It wasn't very pretty. Um, they definitely had their mistakes, but they got the victory, so I'm okay with that against a Spurs team that maybe this is a cheap comparison, but they kind of remind me of the Patriots. No one expected the Patriots to be good, but they still put up a fight, and they're actually a pretty decent team in the NFL because Bill Belichick knows how to get the most out of his guys. Same thing with Coach Pop. I wouldn't say the Spurs are a good team, but every time we play them, and like it's never an easy victory. They're 14-19, so they're still in the playoff race. It's not like they're sitting at the bottom of the league, but um, they're not a good team. It's just Coach Pop knows how to get some victories and make every game a tough game. The Jazz walked away with a 6-point victory. The Jazz were missing Donovan Mitchell and probably will for the next 1 or 2 games. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still confident that the Jazz can win every game without Donovan Mitchell. How this roster is constructed, we're not so reliant on Donovan Mitchell that obviously it's a big loss, but it's not a loss that we can't overcome. Mitchell brings some great leadership. Mitchell brings amazing scoring and energy. We have other guys on the team who can step up and be a leader. We have other guys on the team who can score the ball. We have other guys on the team who can come in and be the energy guy. So the Jazz definitely miss him, but it's constructed in such a way that they can win without him, which is good. You want to have a team like that, not so reliant on one player. There have been teams in the past who haven't done that, and it's not been good. But I'm kind of getting away from myself with this post-game review. I said at the beginning it wasn't that great of a game. It definitely wasn't the sloppiest game I've seen the Jazz play, but it was a team effort. They made some dumb mistakes, but they also played hard and made it work. And they're a talented enough team that they can win games like that. So going back to the trend of if you watch these, the same things to bring up. Again, the Jazz shot 14 less shots than the Spurs. We were starting to see that trend go away. Stopped. 14 shots is a lot. The Jazz only made 39 of 86. The Spurs made 45 of 100. So efficiency-wise, pretty equal. Three-pointers, efficiency-wise, both teams were pretty awful. The Spurs were 10 for 30 and the Jazz were 9 for 31. And free throws is where the Jazz won this game. That being said, I did say that it was pretty awful that the Jazz shot 14 less shots than the Spurs. That stat can be skewed if you shoot a lot of free throws. And the Jazz shot 30 free throws compared to the Spurs 9. So that's where the Jazz won this game. Even though they made 6 less shots and 1 less 3, they made 19 more free throws. So the Jazz got to the line. They made their free throws okay, like 77%. I think that's a little bit above league average, so I'll take it. But that's not a pretty game if you have to win it from the free throw line like that. Then again, you don't always have control over if you win the game from the free throw line or not. And I would much rather that than the Jazz having to shoot 55% in order to stay in the game. So I'm not complaining. It's just kind of a weird game. It's not really Jazz basketball, and that's what you get sometimes when you play against coaches, like coaches that try to throw you off your game plan. I don't know if that was the plan, but you have to be ready to adjust. And the Jazz hit their free throws and played good enough defense to win the game. I will bring up turnovers. I'm kind of like a broken record with turnovers, but it's such an important stat. If the Jazz are a championship caliber roster, I don't think there's a ton of argument about that. I think they have that talent there. The argument is, do they have what it takes to just push them past the second round and the third round of the playoffs. A lot of people accuse the Jazz of choking. A lot of people say Rudy Gobert is a liability in the playoffs. And so the stuff that will make the Jazz not only a championship caliber team and a championship caliber roster, but actually a championship team where they make it to the finals and win the finals it's those little things like turnovers, where the Jazz are consistently turning the ball over more than their opponent. And if you're doing that in the playoffs, it makes it very, very difficult to win series. You can win games, but it makes it very difficult to win series in the NBA playoffs when you're turning over the ball more than your opponent game in, game out. And not to bash Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert, I think they're both incredible basketball players, and I think they're both underrated. But neither of them are a talent like LeBron James. Neither of them can carry a team to the NBA Finals, and so because of that, you need to rely on these small things as a team. The team really needs to be locked in. They need to force turnovers. They can't be sloppy with the ball. Um, they need to shoot consistently, game in, game out. Tonight they weren't awful. They were 45%. That's lower than I would like, but it's not the worst I've seen. But games like this, they're frustrating to watch, even though they're a victory, because if they play like that in the playoffs, that's a loss every single time. So these are the things that I'm a little bit concerned about, because if they play like that, they're not a championship team. But we've seen games where they were that caliber. There are just a few things that they're consistently doing wrong that is preventing them from being considered that, or really making it come the off season, the postseason, I should say. So that's why I keep bringing those things up. Granted, some of the turnovers weren't awful, and it's like the Jazz. Yeah, so like one of them that I can think of is Jordan Clarkson gets a steal, but it's going out of bounds. He goes to save it, and he passes it behind his back, trying to get Mike Conley. Mike Conley reads it as, okay, I'll stay back and get the pass, and then we can push the ball and run a play. Jordan Clarkson is reading it as, Mike Conley's taking off down the court to get the 2 points right now. And so he passes it down the court while Mike Conley stays back. That's not the worst turnover, because you're just trading a turnover for a turnover. Obviously, you wish it didn't happen, because you're kind of throwing away the turnover you just forced. But it's not the worst thing. It's not like you're giving up one of your possessions. It's just you wasted one of your steals that you got. But it's miscommunications like that are what cause turnovers where you lose your possessions. So I'm gonna keep talking about it. I think that is probably the biggest weakness of the Jazz. I'm sure there's a lot of people that disagree with me, but if the Jazz can consistently shoot more shots than their opponent and turning the ball over less than your opponent is a huge stat to get you there. The Jazz can do that night in, night out, with how good they are from shooting from three, with how good they are as a team field goal percentage generally. Because they're beating teams regularly shooting 10, 15 less shots per game. That's 30 plus potential points left on the board. So if they can consistently match it or shoot more, it's going to be tough to beat the Jazz, and the turnovers is a big part of that. So I'll get off my soapbox real quick and talk about the box score. I'm not going to talk about the Spurs. They're not as, honestly, they're not a very exciting team for me, so I don't like talking about them. Normally, if it's a team that I like, I'd normally spend a little bit more time talking about them. But I think tonight it really comes down to, obviously Mitchell was out. Jordan Clarkson came up big, scored 23 points. That's higher than his average. He stepped up in Mitchell's absence. He wasn't awful efficiency, not great. He was 9 for 21. Rudy Gobert played his game. Um, I think he did have a little bit of a tough time with Mitchell not on the with Mitchell not on the court. Um, Not huge. He scored 16 points. I know recently he's been getting more in the 18-20. That's a couple shots. He did have his 13 rebounds, 3 blocks, and just other than that, other players came in, scored their double-digit points, and the Jazz walked away with a win. Bogdanovich had a great stretch. He had a tough night from 3, but he ended with 19 points. Ingles had a great night with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 17 points. So it was just a team effort. There were 6 players in double digits, um, but nothing super exciting. Probably the most exciting stat tonight was that Mike Conley had 4 steals. Um, but that was kind of this game. Nothing super exciting. It was kind of a sloppy win without Donovan Mitchell. Hopefully he'll get back in a game or two and be 100% ready to go. Um, but the Jazz got the win. I won't complain about that. They're still under double digit losses, and let's see how long they can keep that up. That would be great. I believe they're off to Portland next, so I'm excited to watch that game. But thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you saw in this game. If there's anything that I missed that was exciting, like let me know in the comments and we can have that discussion there. And if you're a Jazz fan, please like the video, follow the channel, and like that's what we do here. We put out Jazz content. So thanks for joining me and have a good night.